Hello and welcome to the news. I am Adebola Adedugba. The top stories at this hour, but straight let's get into the news with updates on the ongoing 79th United Nations General Assembly, where Kenya President William Ruto says some nations are increasingly choosing unilateralism and militarization over dialogue and diplomacy. The them versus us mentality has escalated tensions and eroded trust in the global multilateral system. He said this on Thursday at the 79th session of the United Nations General Assembly, UNGA. According to Ruto, sophisticated cyber attacks on critical infrastructure and climate change are increasingly fueling instability and conflict around the world.
The world is at a challenging moment and in a most precarious international security dispensation. The promise of the United Nations Charter to save succeeding generations from the scourge of war has been profoundly shaken. From land to sea and from air to the outer space, global peace, security, and stability are increasingly under threat. Conflicts and tensions pervade every frontier, undermining the collective security that international cooperation seeks to uphold. Cases of polarizing narratives, factionalism, social upheavals, organized crime, war, and stockpiling of weapons of mass destruction are at an all-time high. Great power rivalry is intensifying, provoking regional competition and inducing geopolitical and geoeconomic realignments and tensions. The subtle nuances of them versus us has produced negative coalitions, wars, tensions, as well as eroded trust and confidence in global multilateral system.
Meanwhile, Sudan's army chief has raised the alarm at the United Nations that months of war in this country could spill over into the region, and he called for international pressure to be placed on the paramilitary forces he's fighting. Abdel Fattah al-Burhan, speaking at the 79th UN General Assembly in New York, called on the international community on Thursday to designate the paramilitary Rapid Support Forces, RSF, as a terrorist organization and to target its sponsors outside Sudan's borders.
The war began. Sudan is facing very serious challenges. And in fact, a war is being waged. There's a conspiracy. A war is being waged by a group that has rebelled against the state for many years. It's receiving political and logistical support at the local and regional levels. You've all witnessed the crimes, the violations, and the atrocities committed by these rebels, targeting the Sudanese people and the Sudanese state. The war began with an attempt to seize power through force. With time, it's transformed into a total war against the Sudanese state and the Sudanese people. Countless crimes have been committed: ethnic cleansing, forced displacement, and genocide. All of this has been committed by the Rapid Support Forces, the RSF, which should be considered a terrorist group. This militia is continuing to perpetrate crimes, and it is most unfortunate that it is receiving the support of some states in the region. States which are providing funding and mercenaries for their own political and economic benefit, in flagrant violation of law and international will.
The president of the Central African Republic, Faustina Touadera, has expressed gratitude to the United Nations for the role it played in the lifting of sanctions and embargo on the moving of diamonds. He said this on the podium of the 79th UN General Assembly in New York. Touadera said the theme for the debate, leaving no one behind, acting together for the advancement of peace, sustainable development and human dignity for present and future generations, resonated with the ideals of the Central African Republic.
The gratitude of the Central African Republic and my country's full support, as well as the support of the government. We support your various initiatives which seek to make the United Nations a place where the efforts of nations come together. As you know, on the 30th of July of this year, the United Nations Security Council decided to lift in its entirety the unjust, illegitimate, and iniquitous arms embargo that had been imposed on the Central African Armed Forces for a decade. An embargo which caused us irreparable harm over those 10 years. Speaking from this rostrum, I'd like to extend to you the gratitude of the Central African people. We're grateful to the UN Security Council for its wise decision, a decision which, although belated, will allow my country to continue to act so as to rebuild national peace and security, and to work together with other states in the pursuit of peace, sustainable development, and the human dignity of present and future generations.
And let's head to the sidelines of the events of the ongoing 79th United Nations General Assembly, where Global Business Africa Initiative brought together influential African leaders from government, business, and civil society to explore economic opportunities across the African continent. Notable speakers on Thursday were former Vice Presidents Yemi Osinbajo, and Director General of the World Trade Organization, Okonjo-Iweala, while speaking, pointed out several challenges affecting trade in Africa.
We talked about having one passport. So for business people at least, so that they could move quickly and freely, I don't think we've arrived there. Some of the major infrastructure projects that could link countries, and here's where you come to trade, they're still on the drawing board. And the one thing I will always continue to say, the cost of doing trade on the continent is too high. It's like adding another tariff onto goods of over 300%. With that, it's very difficult to compete. And we can bring some of those costs down by digitizing some of our trading processes, implementing the trade facilitation agreement of the World Trade Organization. We've shown that countries that implemented it have seen their trade costs come down dramatically. But the average implementation worldwide is 70-something%, but for our continent it's 40-something. Okay. So why don't our countries implement that and help to bring the costs of trade down?
Former Vice President Yemi Osinbajo, while speaking, emphasized the need to look at regulations to aid startup businesses in Africa.
And that's a very crucial part of our work, to ensure that startups in Africa have market access. Yeah. In other words, they're able to do cross-border transactions. And the way to do cross-border transactions is to make entry level and barriers to lower barriers and make entry easier. Yeah. And the way to do that really is looking at regulations. How can we help, how can we handhold literally our startups so that they can do business in any of our jurisdictions? And that involves quite a bit of work. It involves the foundation itself engaging in the practice in every jurisdiction and bringing the help and results of that to our own startups.
The alarming statistics that 1 in 5 girls worldwide is married before age 18 years, with even higher rates in the least developed countries, prompted the SDG Media Zone discussions to emphasize the urgent need for systemic change. Panelists at the SDG Media Zone, a side event of the 79th UNGA, called for comprehensive legal and social reforms to protect the rights of women and empower them for a better future. News Central's Chidima Ona has details.
Child marriage has long been a devastating issue in Africa. In the least developed countries, the statistics are even more alarming, with 36% of girls married before adulthood and 10% before age 15. At the SDG Media Zone in New York, a prominent panel moderated by Kayode Akintemi, Managing Director and Editor-in-Chief of News Central, confronted this urgent issue. The First Lady of Sierra Leone also shared her efforts to combat early child marriage in our country.
Early marriage, in my own definition, is a form of legalizing rape. That's my own definition of early marriage, because a child cannot give consent. And if a child cannot give consent and then you allow a child to be married, that means you're forcing somebody else to rape that child. And since becoming the First Lady of Sierra Leone in 2018, I took it upon myself to make it my agenda so that people have to stop these cruel habits. And 7 years later, we are now able to ban the practice because I've managed to get the whole nation to understand the effect of early marriage on our girls.
The impact of early child marriage on African women and girls is profoundly damaging. During the discussion, Natalia Kanem emphasized that child marriage not only severely limits their educational and economic opportunities, but also threatens the lives and health of young girls.
If you know that the pelvic system of a young girl by under 19 is not fully developed, it's about 80 to 88% developed, then you know what the ramifications are when she has to undergo sexual intercourse and carry a full pregnancy. So they have complications of obstructed labor. They can have uterine rupture and they can die. And if they don't die, there are morbidities that they have after that pregnancy.
To effectively address this issue, a shift in social norms is essential. Panelists explore the reasons why eradicating child marriage has proven challenging.
Why, therefore, is the issue still remaining very persistent? It's basically 4 issues. One is that this is a violation, a violence against girls that had almost been normalized when it should not be normal because it's abuse and rape.
Time and again, African women and girls have stood up and told us what they want. And the best protection that we have is for an African girl to know her rights, for an African girl to know her own body, for an African girl to be encouraged that the sky is the limit and that we are going to back her up.
As discussions progress on improving Africa, empowering women and addressing girl-child marriage are seen as crucial issues. The panel delivered a clear message. The time to act is now, as the lives and futures of millions hinge on decisive action against child marriage. In Lagos for News Central, Chidinma Ona.
Thank you for staying tuned. Nigeria's federal government has kick-started activities lined up for the nation's 64th anniversary celebration. The Secretary to the federal government, in company with several cabinet ministers, urged citizens to celebrate the day, saying much has been achieved in the last 64 years. Our correspondent, Amadine Uyi, tells us more.
It was a briefing to kickstart the commencement of Nigeria's 64th independence celebration. In attendance were senior government officials, cabinet members, amongst others.
The 64th independence anniversary calls for a combination of critical actions on our part as citizens and collectively as a nation. These actions include a reflection on our past and a determination to raise the banner of hope, progress, peace, unity, and development.
The Secretary to the Government of the Federation, while reflecting on the journey so far, urged citizens to celebrate the nation's democratic odyssey.
We must recognize with pride our journey to a stable and broken democratic sovereignty, which has spanned 25 years since 1999.
Other cabinet members present took time to highlight key achievements in their ministries.
In 1960, there were 45 million of them. That was the population of Nigeria. Now we are fivefold. There are 230 million of us. not surprisingly, demand for government services, infrastructure, financing to fund education, health services, and compete with other nations have grown significantly.
In a landmark move, President Tinubu has taken a decisive step toward implementing local government autonomy by seeking a verdict from the Supreme Court. This action demonstrates his administration's commitment to a deep-rooted restructuring of the country, enhancing governance and development at the grassroots level, and also promoting effectiveness and accountability at local government level.
We are addressing the design of our roads based on the subsoil and the water table. And the funding is also a challenge. But in the ingenuity of Mr. President, he has introduced renewed hope infrastructure funding, where a number of projects are migrated into this funding program.
So what we did and what we've done for the last 10 months has been to develop a program, a curriculum, a new curriculum that will integrate knowledge, skills, trades, and values.
The independence celebration, which comes up on October the 1st, will have the president give a State of the Nation address. In Abuja for News Central, I am Amadine Uyi.
And now to politics, where the Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC, has presented a certificate of return to the winner of the Edo State governorship election, Monday, Okpebholo, of the All Progressives Congress, APC. The ceremony took place at the INEC headquarters in Abuja on Thursday. INEC declared Okpebholo winner of the Saturday, September 21st election after polling 291,667 votes to beat his closest contender, Aswe Ighodalo of People's Democratic Party, PDP, who polled 247,274 votes. Olumide Akpata of the Labour Party, LP, came a distant third in the race with 22,763 votes. 14 other candidates contested the seat, but got less than the 3 frontline candidates.
We have to thank INEC for conducting a free and fair election. And we are so happy that we have collected the certificate of return now.
A new dawn in Edo. We now have a humble, gentle, but focused, practical guy who will translate the dreams of Edo to reality. I'm excited and vindicated, and I'm happy that Abakumisa is our governor-elect, and by the grace of God, a new Edo obviously is going to rise immediately it's sworn in. So I'm so happy and excited. Joining forces with those that we have always contended with in all election, obviously it was easy for us to just have the street right, and that is what you saw. Now we are all united now in Edo North and in Isako West, and that gave us all the results that you see.
In the meantime, members of the PDP in Edo State, under the aegis of Aswe Ogie Mandate Recovery Group, have demanded the declaration of Aswe Ighodalo and Osarodion Ogie as the governor and deputy governor-elect of Edo State. And this is coming among some demands by protesting members of the party who protested to demand the recomputing of results of last Saturday's election declared by INEC in favor of the APC.
The proposal of civil society is that an electoral offences commission, National Electoral Offences Commission.
The All Progressives Grand Alliance, APGA National Working Committee, NWC, has suspended allies of Anambra State Governor Chukwuma Soludo over alleged anti-party activities. The suspension was announced during a briefing by the APGA National Chairman, Chief Edozie Njoko, to journalists in Abuja on Thursday. He outlined the party's decision to address various infractions and instances of indiscipline within the organization. According to Njoko, this action stems from their alleged involvement in illegal primary election and congresses in Anambra State, contrary to the party's constitution. Transparency organizations in Nigeria say there is a need for the urgent constitution of Electoral Offences Commission to adjudicate on electoral offences that have characterized the nation's voting process. Now, these, they say, will stem the tide of irregularities and future occurrences of electoral malpractices and other related offences. The civil society organizations made this call at a presentation of Citizens' Memorandum for Reform of the Electoral Legal Framework in Nigeria's capital, Abuja. News Central's Joshua Imarai fills us in.
The proposal of civil society is that an Electoral Offences Commission, National Electoral Offences Commission, should be put in place. And we are all aware, that this has been in the pipeline, but somehow we don't know why the political class, hasn't moved it very fast. If we had that, it will go a long way in dealing with the impunity that we see in the electoral process.
Judges who are appointed to adjudicate on election cases, they need to be trained, they need to be judges of impeccable character, and where you have judicial officers who deviate, from the norm, there has to be some level of sanctions.
Among other reforms, they called on lawmakers to establish a law backing the use of technology in elections.
The reforms emphasize the need for a robust legal backing for the use of technology in elections, such as mandatory electronic transmission of election results. By doing so, the electoral process will become faster, more accurate, and less susceptible to tampering.
They also expressed worry at the lack of inclusion for persons with disabilities in the just completed Edo State governorship poll.
The issue of inclusivity, which is within my constituency, had very little presence, and I hope that the rec in Ondo will learn from the mistakes of the rec in Edo State.
Stakeholders at the engagement say the proposed electoral reforms will restore integrity, enhance efficiency, and ensure inclusivity in Nigeria's electoral process. In Abuja for News Central, I am Joshua Iwarai.
Away from politics, Nigeria's food security may be under threat as recent flooding in Maiduguri have devastated more than 70,000 hectares of farmland, leaving many farmers struggling to recover. The United Nations Food and Agriculture Organization says the flooding submerged crops just weeks before harvest, prompting concerns over food shortages in a nation already facing agricultural challenges. News Central's Umaru Kerawa, who toured some farmlands in Jere and Maiduguri, now reports.
More than 50,000 hectares of Jere water rice bowl up to Koshebe towards Mafa town have been submerged. The recent flooding in Maiduguri and some parts of Jere has not only destroyed crops, but also devastated the livelihoods of local farmers.
Yanzu wanda aka samu aka dan cicire ma kwata-kwata bai nuna ba. Yanzu kaga hinan duk ya fadi duk ruwa ya zo ya shanye. Mutane yanzu bana sai dai abin da Allah ya abinci kan babu.
Bare jerede shi ma an da zaksu bana baro mon jin bawo. Kunda har bana la jana roti la su aula ya so fondera wolo ma. Bana jerede fondera ma buye yayen.
The United Nations Food and Agriculture Organization reports that thousands of acres of rice, millet, as well as animals like goats, sheep and fish, among others, have been lost, exacerbating the threat to food security in Nigeria.
Maidurin wani kushiro ya de shinkafa ya falla da ba. Ngo arkim mengo kandanze. Arkim daraman ba. Andi federal government brutuyena, state government brutuyena, local government brutuyena.
If government will take measures in future, it will be very good and it's going to help the economy of our people to come back better.
The fear now is that of rising prices and scarcity, which could lead to increased hunger in vulnerable communities.
God has tested us, and then we have taken it, but we need an intervention, particularly to make our people to partake in the dry season farming. So I'm calling on federal government, maybe through the Ministry of Food Security, to come up with a program that they will get the real data of what actually the water has caused, so that the government will quickly plan for immediate intervention and so also for long term.
Approximately 5 million people across Borno, Adamawa, and Yobe states are said to be at risk of acute food insecurity, according to the Food and Agriculture Organization of the United Nations, from mid-September to October 2024.
More than 70,000 hectares of rice farms have been submerged here, and the farmers continue to count on their losses, hoping for support from the government and other well-meaning individuals to alleviate their hardships and address the issue of threat to food security. In Jere for News Central, Umoru Kirawa.
And 5 individuals involved in the Offa robbery incidents have been found guilty of illegal possession of firearms, armed robbery, and culpable homicide. Justice Halima Salman of the Kwara State High Court stated that the offences are punishable by death. The incident, which occurred at 5 banks in Offa local government area in 2018, left no fewer than 32 people dead, including 9 police officers, 2 of whom were women. The convicted individuals include Ayoade Akini Boson, Aziz Salahuddin, Niyi Ogundiran, Ibikunle Ogunleye, and Adeola Abraham. The 6th suspect, Michael Adeku, a retired police officer, died in custody before the trial commenced. Let's also tell you that Minister of Works, Dave Umahi, says the federal government will toll all major roads in the country upon completion of construction and renovation. He listed some of the roads as Lagos-Ibadan Expressway, 2nd Niger Bridge, Abuja-Kano Road, and Makurdi 9th Mile, among others. The former Ebonyi State Governor said the tolling of federal roads is going to bring a lot of money to the federal government. Umahi said private sector members have been engaged to bring in funds, construct the roads, work with the Infrastructure Concession Regulatory Commission and the Ministry of Works to toll the roads. Nigeria's National Oil Spill Detection Response Agency has expressed its willingness to collaborate with all relevant stakeholders to ensure effective monitoring of oil spills in the Niger Delta region in a bid to support the nation's climate change action plan. The executive director of the agency made this known as he received a delegation from a stakeholder democracy network in the nation's capital, Abuja, where they informed him of a tool developed to help manage emissions and sought the support of the agency for its adoption.
Where methane is emerging, which enable regulators like NOSDRA and other agencies to then cooperate with oil and gas companies and others to help respond to that emissions, fix the problem, and reduce the impact on the environment. So we are currently building a prototype satellite-based methane tracker in close partnership with NOSDRA, which we hope will be a step in that direction. We've completed phase 1 and we're very much looking forward to mobilizing resources and then delivering a phase 2 and making sure we build a tool which is helpful.
So far they've been good partners to NOSDRA before this time, and I did mention a few of other tools that we have already developed jointly, and we believe that continuous relationship with them will go a long way in delivering our mandate in line with Mr. President's Renewed Hope agenda. And so for us, we are open to other NGOs and other organizations that are willing to partner with us.
When we return, a climate change strategy in Nigeria for sustainable development. Join us again. Thank you for staying with us. Tree planting exercise identified by environmentalists as a climate change adoption strategy for sustainable development in Nigeria. Now, climate change activists, however, urged many Nigerians to participate in several tree planting initiatives, both at the national and sub-national level, particularly within communities. Our correspondent, Omolola Ololade, shares more.
Nigeria, with its diverse ecosystems ranging from tropical rainforest to arid savannas, faces significant environmental challenges, including deforestation, desertification, and loss of biodiversity. However, tree planting has been recognized worldwide to combat deforestation and promote reforestation. In Nigeria, especially in Lagos urban city, there have been various tree planting exercises aimed at restoring degraded lands, enhancing biodiversity, and supporting livelihoods.
The Lagos State Agency responsible with the last park, they are doing their best, but it's not enough. It's not enough. We can do more, especially for a city that has at least 21 million people. So we must have equivalent green spaces to be able to take care of this number of people. And I'm aware that there's a law in Lagos that says at least 25% of every land should be green. How much that law is being implemented begs the question, and that is why also real estate development guys needs to look at it and see how they also can contribute.
When you look at kind of the pace of growth, especially with a place like Lagos, it means a lot of developments have eroded our trees and the environment. So it was important to send the right signal. And we also think it's something that individually our team members and employees can continue to do on their own. So it's to just encourage people to care about it and to think about it, be mindful, even in the choices that they make to sometimes destroy or cut down trees.
While NGOs and local communities play a crucial role in tree planting efforts, community efforts, particularly from individuals, are vital to ensure the sustainability of tree planting projects. This will in turn foster a sense of ownership and responsibility among local populations.
Personally, I think tree planting is something that I'm involved in, not just with my company, but as an individual, because it's very important for sustainability. So, yeah, for the earth to be better, for us to sustain nature, tree planting is very important.
The tree planting exercise is really important to me because of the amount of carbon emission I also release into the environment daily. On a daily basis, I bought buses, I switch on my generator and all of that. So this is a way of replenishing my environment.
The role of planting trees in Nigeria cannot be overemphasized, according to environmentalists, as it remains one of Nigeria's climate action strategies in mitigating the adverse effects of climate change while addressing environmental degradation. In Lagos for News Central, Omolola Ololade.
In the meantime, climate change experts have called for increased investment in climate adaptation measures that will empower children with the tools needed to drive change and protect them from the effects of climate change. And this was during a child-led conference of the party stimulation exercise by international humanitarian organization Save the Children in the nation's capital, Abuja. Our correspondent, Idong Joseph, tells us more.
The recent floods seen in some states of the country are examples of change in rain patterns, and the extreme heat conditions across the country are evidence of climate change and its impact on Nigeria. Unfortunately, vulnerable populations like children are mostly affected, despite contributing the least to climate change.
Many children are forced to leave home, get married, and work as a result. Flooding is ruining schools and learning opportunities and hurting children's health through waterborne diseases.
In a bid to empower the next generation of leaders who will be able to make changes, Save the Children has launched an initiative that will amplify the voices of young people in the country.
Today's conference of party stimulation, also known as COP29 simulation, is the testament of that commitment. It is a platform where children can engage in the same complex discussions that take place at international climate negotiations.
It is a powerful platform for expressing your thoughts, advocating for your communities, and designing innovative and creative solutions to create a low-carbon world for you and generations yet unborn.
Advocates say that if children are allowed to engage with the country for COP29, they will influence policies and actions that will affect their lives. They call for the commitment of world leaders as the day for the 2024 Conference of the Parties draw closer.
Our expectations are clear. We want to see decisive actions to limit global temperature rises, reduce emissions, and increase investments in climate adaptation measures, particularly those aimed at protecting the most vulnerable, who are the children.
Climate change awareness initiatives for children, advocates say, are crucial towards mitigating the impact of climate change and promoting sustainable developments. In Abuja for News Central, I am Idong Joseph.
The news continues in West Africa, where prosecutors in Republic of Benin have confirmed the arrest of 3 prominent individuals, including a presidential guard commander, on suspicion of plotting a coup d'etat. The other 2 suspects are Oswald Homki, a former sports minister, and Olivia Boko, a businessman with close ties to President Patrice Talon. The special prosecutor at Benin's Court for Financial Crimes and Terrorism, Elom Metonois, said the alleged coup was planned for Friday, September 27, 2024. According to Metonois, the commander of Republic of Guard responsible for the president's security was allegedly enlisted by Homki and Boko to forcibly overthrow the government. The authorities are continuing investigations into the suspected plots.
Dans la nuit du 23 au 24 septembre 2024, un peu après 1h du matin, l'ancien ministre des Sports, M. Oswald Homeki, a été interpellé au moment où il transmettait 6 sacs remplis de billets de banque au commandant de la garde républicaine. Des premières investigations. Il apparaît que le commandant de la garde républicaine, ayant en charge la sécurité du chef de l'État, a été entrepris par le ministre Oswald Homeki pour son propre compte et pour le compte de M. Olivier Bocor, à l'effet d'opérer par la force un coup d'État dans la journée du 27 septembre 2024.
In East Africa, thousands of mourners stood before rows of small white coffins on Thursday at memorial service for 21 children who died in a boarding school fire in central Kenya earlier this month. Now, the coffins were topped with bouquets of flowers and photographs of young boys from Hillside and Darasha Academy in Nyeri town, mostly between the age of 9 and 13, trapped in their dormitory. Kenya has a sad history of school fires. There were more than 60 cases of arson in public secondary schools in 2018, according to most recent data and a parliamentary report.
We are gathered here today with a deep sense of loss. At the very outset, I wish, on my own behalf and on behalf of the Ministry of Education, to convey my heartfelt condolences to the parents, families, friends, and relatives of the 21 young souls whose lives were prematurely cut short by the tragic fire incident on the night of the 5th of September 2024. The devastating aftermath of the unfortunate incident threw the entire nation into shock and grief. It has caused all of us great pain and sorrow, especially as parents. This has certainly been a particularly difficult and trying moment for the immediate families of the deceased children.
These young souls, innocent young boys, our heart cries for them. When you look at them, they are innocents. They are no more.
The economy is a hot-button issue in the U.S. election, and both candidates have been campaigning in the key states of Pennsylvania and North Carolina, putting across their vision for a better, richer America. Harris pushed herself as a capitalist, while Trump claimed that foreign entities wanted to assassinate him because of this economic plan. For News Central, Chief International Correspondent Afia Hagan has more.
U.S. Vice President Kamala Harris, seeking to sharpen her economic message, pledged to usher in new investments in domestic manufacturing across a range of industries if elected to the White House in November. In a speech in the must-win state of Pennsylvania, Harris cast herself as the best person for the job of president, with a pragmatic approach to boosting the middle class. In a tactic rebuttal to Republican claims that she supports communist policies, Harris described herself as a capitalist.
The American people face a choice between two fundamentally very different paths for our economy. I intend to chart a new way forward and grow America's middle class. Donald Trump intends to take America backward to the failed policies of the past.
An hour before the speech, her Republican rival Donald Trump touted his own economic agenda, including a 15% Made in America tax proposal, whilst visiting North Carolina. At a campaign event in Mint Hill, Trump defended his tariff proposals and suggested they were the reason people in other countries want to kill me.
Meanwhile, we have the president of Iran in our country this week. We have large security forces guarding him, and yet they're threatening our former president and the leading candidate to become the next president of the United States. Certainly a strange set of circumstances. Around the world, our enemies are desperate to prevent Donald Trump from returning to the White House because they know I will make America great again. They don't want that.
Both candidates are campaigning in battleground states this week on their competing visions for the economy, a key issue that voters say is a top priority in casting a ballot. Though the race remains close, Harris has opened up a narrow lead in national polling since the two candidates met on a debate stage earlier this month. The economy routinely emerges as a top issue for voters this November, and both candidates have touted populist policies, with Harris appearing to mirror a Trump proposal to end taxation on service workers' tips. For News Central, I'm Afia Hagan.
And in sports, Austin Eguavoen is set to continue as interim Super Eagles coach, while Anthony Joshua and Daniel Du Bois are talking about a rematch. Onyenyechi Obaro has details.
Hello and welcome. This is Sports News. Defending NPFL champions Enugu Rangers beat host Ikorodu City 1-0 in a rescheduled Matchday 2 encounter played at the Mobolaji Johnson Arena in Lagos. Rangers' winning goal was scored by Chinemere Muguzwe, who hit the target on the 25th minute mark. Speaking after the game, Rangers coach Fidelis Ilechukwu revealed that the win was a morale booster for his team after their elimination from the CAF Champions League over the weekend, and would serve them in good stead in their blockbuster clash away against current league leaders and last season's runners-up, Remo Stars, this weekend in Ikene. Super Eagles winger and non-star Moses Simon was recognized by French Ligue 1 on Tuesday after reaching a significant career milestone. A key member of the Super Eagles for almost a decade, the 2024 Africa Cup of Nations silver medalist is regarded as one of the most decisive players in the French top division. He reached a milestone of 150 matches in the French Ligue 1 during Nantes' 1-1 draw with Angers SCO at the weekend. The Ligue 1 official X account marked the occasion, celebrating Simon's contributions with a post. In his 150 appearances, the 29-year-old winger has racked up 27 goals and 29 assists. Simon's achievement places him 5th among Nigerian players with the most Ligue 1 appearances. trailing only John Otaka with 239 games, Wilson Oruma with 196 games, Taye Taiwo with 191 games, and Victor Okpebholo with 170 games. Real Madrid forward Kylian Mbappe faces a spell on the sidelines due to a thigh injury. The France international, who joined the Spanish club in the summer after his contract expired with Paris Saint-Germain, scored in a 3-2 win against Deportivo Alaves on Tuesday before being substituted after 80 minutes. In an official statement released earlier today, Real Madrid revealed that, following tests, the 25-year-old has been diagnosed with an injury to the biceps femoris in his left leg and his progress will be monitored. Real Madrid are away in a league match at Atletico Madrid on Sunday and then play Lille in the Champions League and Villarreal in the Spanish top flight prior to the October international break. Mbappe had scored 6 goals in 7 games for the Bernabeu club before sustaining his injury. Naomi Osaka says she is at a stage in life where she does not want to have regrets after hiring Patrick Borotoglu as her new coach. Japan's Osaka beat Italy's Lucia Bronzetti 6-3, 6-2 at the China Open in her first match with Borotoglu, formerly the longtime coach of Serena Williams, in her corner. The 26-year-old splits with Wim Fissette, who she won 2 of her 4 Grand Slam titles with earlier in September. Osaka said she was initially hesitant about working with Borotoglu, but is happy with her decision to partner with the successful Borotoglu. Osaka is next in action against 21st seed Yulia Putniseva in the second round in Beijing. For News Central Television, Okpebholo, Adebari.
And that's all on the news. Do follow us on social media. We are at News Central TV. You can watch us live on DSTV, channel 422, Star Times, channel 274, Avo TV, and YouTube. Many thanks for watching. I am Adebola Adedugba.